Doing a soybean roasting startup today. Shout out to J&R Electric in Pierpont Manor, New York. If you need any electrical work done up in the Adams Center area, they do professional work. Very good work done here. So we have our soybean storage bin here. The unload dumps into a jump auger and goes into the building. We are just ready to start up here. So the first thing that we're gonna do, we're just doing a walkthrough here. We got the soybean roaster, dumps into the cooling hopper. And then there's a steam vent that sucks the steam off the roaster, blows it outside. 4-inch auger comes up here and dumps into the Master Mill Max, which is one of the best hammer mills in the market. Comes across, hits the blower. Blower blows it straight up and into commodity bay. So for starts, we got to get them heaters running in that roaster because it takes a while to get that oil up to 300 degrees from 20 degrees. So we're starting with a roaster 1 at 17 degrees. Roaster 2 ain't hooked up to anything because we only have one roaster installed here yet. But yeah. 17 degrees here this morning. So that's going to take a little bit for the heaters to get that up to 300 degrees. So we got everything. We checked our rotations on everything. We got our settings set the way they're supposed to be. Now we're commissioning this panel today. Nice thing is, customer calls me and has an issue, I can access that touchscreen from my tablet. I can log right into that touchscreen right from my tablet and run this panel from my tablet. We got the start sequence going. It's got a warm-up time. After an hour, it's going to start filling the roasters and we're going to start roasting. In here, this panel is set up for two roasters. So if they ever wanted to add a second roaster, it is ready to go. It has the VFDs it has the hammer mill VFD. It has the hammer mill feed auger VFD. It has roaster 1 VFD and roaster 2. Up here, we run this thing off of a Omron PLC. It's not a small PLC. It has to be able to run a PID auto tune. That takes about an hour and a half to auto tune the roasters to get it to where they run themselves. We run our temp sensors directly into the PLC. We have our I/O connections. Then we run a D1 VPN to connect to it. Right here we have our cooling fan in case our VFDs make too much heat, and our heater to keep the box from getting too cold. So these here, we also went to a larger touchscreen. This is like a 9-inch touchscreen. They're a very nice touchscreen. We're up to 144 degrees on that roaster. So yeah, once we got roasted beans coming out and good product going in the bin, then my day will be done. After about an hour, I'll pull a thermal imaging video off the panel, because when you have this many wire connections, there's room for somebody making a mistake and not tightening a wire right somewhere and not making a connection. So I'm gonna I do thermal imaging on my panels now as a precaution to find any problems or could be problems. Okay, the 1 hour is up. So our fill augers started and it filled up the tail hopper of the roaster. I wanted to see 200 degrees on startup, but it was automatic at 194. So that's fine. And we're running 60 hertz on our roaster auger. And we are running 1.1 to 1.2 amps on the motor that runs that auger, the large auger that runs through the roaster. And they normally run a little bit high amps on startup. That's fairly normal. It should be running at 0.9 amps. It should be just under 1 amp, but it's running just over. But from my experience, it is, after they run about a day, that amp draw drops. So on this roasting system, we look through here. We have each of our settings here, our roaster auger shut off, our different settings. We have our roaster minimum auger speed, our maximum auger speed, oil preheat time, our low amp shut off, our time delay for the shut off. It's running along 116 degrees. We have our set point at 325. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna run an auto tune. And when we run the auto tune, it will adjust the heating elements so that it'll adjust the PID loop so that it holds this temperature right on the set point. So it holds the set point exactly. It'll go up and down about 10 degrees, and then it will lock in on the set and do its tuning, and then it'll lock in on the set point. So we're going to hit auto tune, and we're gonna let it calibrate itself. Okay, we're up and running. We've been running for a couple hours now, and it's 3 o'clock. So if we go in here to our temperature settings, our auto tune is still in progress. It's still getting everything calibrated. So I wish dryer controls, they would do this on dryer controls. It could make dryers work so much better if we did this on the automation of dryers. This software can run up to 4. This panel is built for 2, and we're just running 1. We can add on, very simple. So now we're gonna do a thermal imaging. Since we've been running a few hours, we're gonna image the inside of the panel and see what for temperatures we got in there. See if anything's getting hot. We've been running for 4 or 5 hours now, so if anything's getting hot, it should be hot now. Terminals down here on this fuse block. That's where the most amp draw is going through. This camera isn't real good. Looking like we could have 104 degrees there, but that don't seem to be a problem. Everything seems to be tight. We have no problems there. So just gonna do one last scan before I close up the doors. See if there's anything I notice. I find it interesting. That I can see which relays are activated. And over here on this door, here at our main wires, and they're not nothing there is warm. It's just everything around it is so cold. Because that shows warm, and it's only 37 degrees. This transformer here shows warm, shows hot, and it's only 58 degrees. But there's no wires anywhere that I could find that showed that they were warm anywhere. Just gonna look at the electric block coming out. Yeah, that's beautiful. Them wires are beautiful. That's nice. Okay, so we have a beautiful electric panel with nothing dangerous showing hot, and this is the last time I'll be using this camera, as I got myself a new thermal imaging camera for my next. And there, we're dumping the soy meal into a commodity bay. They have commodity bays here. So we have a cyclone up there. Right on the back side of the cyclone, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a rotary switch. So that if it fouls up to the cyclone, it'll shut the whole system down. Them cyclones work really nice. Just making a little dust because of it dumping out the bottom there. Sock on there wouldn't hurt. I had to do a quick check-in because I just thought of it. We've been running for a couple hours with this roaster at 325 degrees. Yeah, that's snow on it. It's melting slowly. It is melting. But snow setting on the roaster after a couple hours of running. Okay, time for the final rundown. Over here, we had to move this rotary switch. It was over at that hole. No extension on it, so I guess they thought the grain would flow at 10 degrees. So we had to move that over and add a 6-inch extension to it to make it work. So that is part of startup. If a startup guy can't fix some stuff, then he can't start systems. So, seem to have everything working about the way it should. Dripping a little oil out there from being hot. And here, we are making beans, roasting beans. This seems to be working real nice. That setup there with the hammer mill's working real nice. I like the way that's working. With these hammer mills, when you use that blower, try to get a good view here of it, but your hammers need to turn the right direction. If your hammer mill would be turned around, it would blow beans out the end of that pipe. Since it's turned this way, the hammers throw the beans that way down into the pipe, and therefore you don't have as big of a mess back here. So for starts, we're gonna look at temperature. We're running one roaster. We could run 4 roasters with this software. This panel's wired for 2. We only have one turned on. If we turn the next one on, then the settings would pop up. Over here, we still have the auto tune in progress. That's been running for almost 3 hours, but that's not a problem. It's doing its thing while it's in auto tune. It's not flatlining, but it's crossing the line. So we're gonna let that go. In here, we have our temperature, and right there, it is where we put it in auto tune. So it's been doing a lot of goofy stuff. Now it's doing its crossover. I'm not sure why it didn't have it figured out earlier in the auto tune, but it's figuring it out, so I won't complain. Go into settings. Our roaster auger shut off delay is 180 minutes to clean out. Roaster feeding auger restart delay is 999 seconds. That might have to be lowered once I get that 6-inch extension installed on that switch. It takes longer than 7 minutes to refill the tail hopper with beans. It's going to shut down on an out of grain. This is for the rotation fault. It needs to see a signal every 60 seconds. The hammer mill sequence runtime is at 1,000 when the cooling bin high level drop off. That's for how long the auger runs, but that really doesn't mean anything because we're actually running on a low amp shut off, so that just makes sure this is our max runtime. Roasting sequence shut off delay on destination bin high level. So if our commodity bay would get full, about 60 seconds. Our cooling bin, high level maximum release time. So if our cooling bin wouldn't empty for some reason when it says it's emptying, it's like a fill timer. We don't have an airlock. Lower shut off delay is 60 seconds. We got to keep that high because that way it cleans out good after it's done grinding. Then we have our hammer mill shut off delay, 15 seconds. Cooling fan shut off delay after surge bin unload auger starts, 30 seconds. Cooling fan shut off duration before restart, 3700. 9 amps on the hammer mill. High level switch delay is 999 seconds. Low current is 30 seconds. Low current is 6 amps. Preheat time 60 minutes. And if the programmer sees that, we need to change that to a preheat temperature, that it has to get up to a certain temperature before the roasting system starts rather than a preheat time. So roaster minimum auger speed 40 hertz, roaster maximum auger speed 60 hertz. Whole soybean vertical auger clean out, that's at 0 seconds because of that 6-inch extension that needs to be installed over there. So once I get that extension installed, then we'll build up this to like a 10-second. So we have our 999. That's maxed out. That there should actually be able to go higher. That should be a minute timer, not a second timer for that one there. But we went through all of them. You can look at our faults. We sent test messages. We said we got our test sequences here. Hammer mill sequence, roaster sequence in progress. That's been running since 10:45. 10:54, our heater, our preheat time ran up, and then we started roasting. And our hammer mill sequence has run a couple times. And you can go in here to set your who gets a text message and so on. Okay, so that has a little dot comes up there. I'm not sure what that means. The heaters are all off now. So it's doing its thing. where it's done with its auto tune now. So it's running. It'll take that up the temperature and it'll hold that. So I believe it's all set to go. And I'm gonna head down. I'm gonna let it run through another cycle of the hammer mill to make sure my cooling fan and everything is working correctly. And then I'm gonna hit the road.